modifications.
Test. Can anybody hear us?
It's going to be completely different. It's going to be this big intersection.
Test. Airport
18-wheeler
advisory board
turning
meeting.
around
Anybody
and all
out
this.
there?
And they said, unless someone
I'm hearing something.
tells us that we will work within the layout and geometry of the existing, they said, and that, I said, does that happen sometimes? They said, yes, it does. We will look at it like a brand new
How about now? Can you hear?
intersection
Still hear us? We can barely hear you.
unless someone at the district level,
Are you gonna have to turn yours off?
someone at the district level tells
If I'm
them,
gonna talk.
we don't have to do.
No, we're gonna use yours.
Okay.
We're not a big 18-wheeler truck distribution center. You know
In
what I
fact,
mean?
go
We're
ahead and mute
not,
that.
not,
Okay, so your microphone is still on.
Hey.
I'll unmute mine.
Now your volume's.
No, it's you.
Wayne, you had your shot.
I got my second one yesterday.
Oh, good for you.
I got my second one yesterday.
I can't get anybody listen to me.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. New Year's Eve, because I have no life, I was sitting on the internet and it popped up to make an appointment New Year's Eve. I did it right then. I got in. I don't have the connection to John Brown today.
Yeah, wrong. We got, I must have the same, whatever you got, I got, because we got them at the same time.
Yeah.
What, you're over 65, what's the problem?
It's just they don't have.
I can't even register.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what you do. Go online, look at anywhere in the state you can register, that's what you start with. Don't try to register in Palatka. If there, a lot of parts of the state have a lot of, and there will be openings in Orlando.
They can still hear?
You know, you might have to
Change your mic.
Hey, Dana, do you hear us? Hello,
Faintly,
Dana.
I can hear you.
Wonderful. How are you?
If you said, how are you? I'm fine. How are you?
We're all wonderful.
Matt, could you start the video and see if okay. See that top picture? There you are, John.
Hi, Dana.
And you can unmute
We're
yours.
all good.
Or
So
you
we're
wanna mute
unmuted, yes. So we're live.
Wait a minute. You're unmuted.
We got a quorum? We have a quorum? We have a quorum.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Okay, so we'll wait just another minute, maybe. Did Melissa say she's
My
coming?
time, that's-
No, she's standing by.
Oh, she's online?
She's gonna Zoom.
Mr. Chair, may I have the names of the board members present for the minutes, please?
You sure may. We have John Browning, we have Hugh Rawls, we have Wayne McLean, and we have Ken Johnson and me. And then, of course, Dana's online, and
Melissa should be joining us soon.
I think that's all I see online.
Thank you. How we doing? Good.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started then, if that's okay with everybody. And can you hear us good, Sonny?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Wonderful. All right, well, welcome everybody to our Airport Advisory Board meeting. We've already taken the roll call. The first thing on the agenda is 1A. And then could I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the Airport Advisory Board meeting, December 2, 2020?
I so move.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
John seconded.
John Browning seconded.
Ken Johnson made the motion.
Ken Johnson made the motion. And is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. And Dana, if you can give us a thumbs up. And hi, Melissa, we see you now. If y'all give us a thumbs up, that'd be wonderful. Okay, everybody agreed. Again, I want to say thank you for your time. I was impressed with a quote from Ludwig van Beethoven, who made a wonderful impression on our world in his short 57 years. And he said this, and I quote, "What I have in my heart and soul must find a way out. That's the reason for music." And I thought about that quote in relation to what each one of us are doing right here at this hour. Our music is service to our community. I want to just say a word of thank you to each one of y'all. I'm glad that we as a team can serve our community, and it is what we do. It is what we are, and it's a wonderful service that we bring to our community. So thank you, each one, for your time and effort and your wisdom and your energy. All the smarts that come out of this room and this group is wonderful. And it's a privilege to work together. And Andrew, thank you again for what you do for our community. It's huge. And Kyle, I don't know whether Kyle's with us. Yep, Kyle's right there. And Kyle, thank you to you and Mr. Evans for all that you do for our community. It's just huge, and we're very appreciative of all the help that you bring to us. So thank you, sir. Did you want to say anything, Kyle?
With you.
Go, say that one more time, Kyle. I think I wrote over you.
I just said thank you as well. It's certainly a partnership. We're more than happy and enjoy working with you.
Well, thank you. All right, so we'll move on from that, those comments to public comments. Is there any public comments from anybody? Since Cheryl's here in the room with us, I will just say that she has helped out John with his QuickBooks to get them more organized, and it's going to make reporting to Mr. Holmes a lot easier. So that's a work in process. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, we'll move on to the next one, which is an airport update. And John, we'll turn the meeting over to you for the airport business update.
Thank you, Judd. Can everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up. Okay. And Sonny, can you put up the slides, please?
Yes, sir.
This is a report on it will cover the first quarter of the fiscal year. So it's pretty good. This covers October, November, and December. The January figures are not finalized with finance to be able to report January. So this is a good one gives us a good view of the first quarter. And then Logan Becker, I believe, has a financial update at the end of this too. So I'm going to be real fast. If you would, next slide, please. There you go. Our takeoffs and landings are roughly the same, very close to last year. Next slide, please. Our 100 low lead sales have been very strong. To help make up for our jet sales that are not quite as good. Next slide, please. Sonny, can you put up the next slide, please? Oh, that's the total revenue. Anyway, can you back up one? And there's a couple thousand gallons low on Jet A. Now the next slide. And this is the total revenue. And how I come about this. The top line, the revenue comes from our QuickBook reports every night. We reconcile to City Hall how much money we took in on fuel sales. And then I keep track of every gallon that we pay for that particular month. So I subtract what we paid for from what we took in, and I factor in the 3% credit card fee. And what we're left with is literally the profit for this quarter. Very close to last year. I'm just glad it's not trending the other way, but hang on, folks. Gas has been going up ever since November. Keep your fingers crossed. Captain's turned on and fasten your seatbelt sign. Now, next slide, please. Our rent revenue a little bit stronger than last year because we got this new terminal building rented out, which helps. And next slide, please. Hold on to your horses, folks. You are not seeing a misprint. At present, he stands $41,234 in the red. But if you could read the note says we have not been reimbursed for an insurance, a $35,000 insurance payout that the city had to make. We will be reimbursed from that, and that $41,000 will come down to $5,493, which is close to what we were last year, a little bit in the hole, but it's not really in the hole. A couple of things to point out here. We're going to have a new bill at the end of the year. I don't know if you noticed it, we've got a new Ford F-150 truck sitting out here. And the finance department has taken $4,200 out for the principal and interest on that vehicle this first quarter. So that wasn't in last year's figures. So keep that in mind. Liability insurance, the city has taken out in the first quarter of the year. You buy a lot of stuff. For instance, at the airport here, we buy a lot of janitorial supplies in the first quarter that we won't need to buy for the rest of the year. Finance department has made a liability payment of $22,000 this year in the first quarter. So it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of hard to get a good grip of where we are because of the expenses that come out in the first quarter. But I will tell you this, we're looking at least very close with last year, if not the same. And we didn't have too bad a year last year at the end of the year. I think we wound up something like 6,000 in the black. Next slide, please.
Okay, wait, stop.
Oh, back up, please.
In the black, isn't that?
Well, no, not for the entire year, not the quarter, John. This is the first quarter. I meant for the entire year. We had it.
And what is the insurance pay?
It's liability.
I know, but I mean, no, you say we're getting 30 grand back.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
What is that?
I think that our lightning damage from our AWAS and our
Runway lights.
taxiway C, which was an unbelievable project. I got some numbers here on insurance here in a minute. It's pretty impressive. Next slide, please, Sonny. And I have to read that note at the bottom. In addition to the loan debt, the airport does have an additional $162,743 worth of debt owed to the general fund for a past advance that was not covered in years past. So we're adding that in to this new debt balance.
This is the first one. What year? What was it for? Come on.
Logan will have to tell about. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that happened.
So I think Logan's got an answer. When we get to 5D, she's going to give us a quarterly financial report. And I think, Wayne, she has an answer for that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, she briefly mentioned it, I think, in the last meeting or two. Hopefully that's more detail. Next slide.
Once we get all set up.
One of these days, John. Hopefully. Go ahead, John.
And we did been very fortunate with grant money. I worked with Andrew and Matt to put these together. Anything to add? Am I missing anything here? Okay.
That's a good overview. We're going to touch on that. And
The only question I would add is that the zero under the city, the only curveball that could come with that would be the construction of taxiway A West. We don't know yet if the AIP is going to be 100% or not, and also when that construction will start. If it'll even start in the next fiscal year, so.
Okay.
That's the only-
Yeah, that number was listed as zero because we don't expect it to start until the next fiscal year.
That
And if we
zero.
wanted to make it that way, even if the grant was written earlier than normal, we could make it that way.
Okay. Yeah. that- All right. Next slide, please. And anybody want to talk about this? These are the projects that we've got in the hopper right now.
okay, now we're going to go over that in detail and see, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I had planned to give an
Okay.
update of our
Yeah.
meeting last week.
Yes, right. So I think, John,
Good.
Is that all covered?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Number 4 is really not covered, is it? Appearance project.
No, that's not a AIP project.
Yeah.
That's the hangar
So
painting
that-
project.
Let's go over that. I mean, we do
I
have,
think it's B.
it's B.
It's B. It's next.
So you want to come back to
Yeah,
that?
we'll come back to that.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Okay, next slide, please. Just want everybody to be aware of what project we've got going. All hangars ready with one exception. We've got one, somebody vacated at the beginning of February. We're in the process of trying to get rented out. We had a recent COVID scare. Robert, the head lineman, chief of maintenance, came down with COVID. So he was out for a couple of weeks. We've hired a new operations administrative assistant that we're training right now, Mr. Jody Lee. Glad to have him. Certainly need him. And we're interviewing for an administrative operations assistant. Jody's an operations administrative assistant, more heavy with outside work, a little bit of inside work. And then we reverse that. We need somebody heavy on the administrative to help with the administrative work. That job, the administrative operations assistant job, closes out on the 5th, and then we'll hopefully have some applicants to interview for. And they're the insurance claims that got $112,000 damage to the taxiway C lighting. They had to replace the wiring from the vault all the way out to the south end of the airport and back.
Wow.
And back with every transformer and every light bulb.
Now, when you talked about reimbursing, that's the second one, right? And that's from the 21 lighting.
I believe that 21,000 is part of.
But you were talking about we were getting back.
Yes, yeah. This
Who paid for the 112,000 in lighting damage?
well, I don't know how it works. The city
The city
pays
paid.
for it, and then
Have they got some money back
I,
on that?
I,
I noticed.
I
you had
think
one
so.
On the books, you didn't have the
the 112 is not on the books. I got that $35,000 figure right out of the finance books. But yeah, but again, those were December numbers, the January number, but it may be in there. But that's the good news, that it was covered by insurance. And the AWAS was good news because it was going to be an $18,000 upgrade to a system that we didn't have. A couple of years ago, we got a letter saying your system will no longer be supported with technical service. So they tried to talk us into updating. Before, in a way, fortunately, we got hit by lightning before we upgraded, and we wound up getting that upgrade covered by insurance. That was fortunate. So we had those up, $130,000 worth of damage.
At least Jewish, like I'm part Jewish, so I can say that. But,
Specific places.
Jewish, like,
Our system is broadcasting in the test mode because the FAA has not been out to recertify the new $18,000 AWAS system. We're trying to get them to set an appointment and come. They have to inspect it and say the information is good before you can put it out. You can still use it in the air and the VFR conditions. You can't use it in instrument conditions. And it cannot be broadcast out to the world for people to pull up on the internet until it's out of that test mode. And next slide, please. We do have an issue that we need to talk about here. We're not allowed to rent out the courtesy car, and I wanted to ask if the board had any recommendations on what we could do about a courtesy car.
What the F-150 for?
That airport, hauling dirt and airport maintenance.
And I'm assuming it's insurance issues that you're not allowed to use that. Yeah, I assume that's so.
my thing is that the courtesy car, if we recommend it not be used overnight, and that they've got to have proof of insurance. I know they're going to give us whatever to do it. They got to show the driver's license. They got to show they got insurance that would cover them, and all of that. And we know, I think everybody here knows why that issue came up. It was parked in a place that probably shouldn't have.
But I think it's bigger than that, John, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Oh, I think it's bigger than that. I think they're not allowed to use city-owned vehicles, correct?
My research has shown that they can, and that the vehicle is insured through the League of Cities.
Well, I guess we'd have to ask Don Holmes.
And he's checking with
He's
other
checking in.
airports to see
Then we'll
how
hold
and
this
what they
debate.
do. So,
Yeah, Don's.
An airport without a
initial
courtesy car is not very courteous.
That's
Well,
very
I
true.
think that Don found when talking to him that it was not covered. But I think they are trying to get some coverage, which they're going to have.
Yep.
That is the way it is. You looked it up, you said it was covered. Don looked it up, said it wasn't covered. Well, we got to get it covered. The thing is, though, that
How many months have we been doing this?
years.
over our pay grade.
How many months have you not been able to rent it? Loan it
A
out?
couple.
Couple months. So we've done it for 20 years, 30 years.
I
but-
don't think it's a good idea, just personally, to get a car and go spend the night, take it to a hotel or to a bar or to wherever you might go with a car that's got city plates on it. I think but do loan it. Most places you go, they don't give you one to keep. Now, you've been to probably more than I, they'll
And
give you
it's
one to
not
go.
supposed to be kept over. That's
No.
ridiculous.
But
We were
they're
only
keeping
using-
them, we were loaning them out. They would go, get a room, keep the car, stay wherever, and that's how we got in this jam. And maybe stopped at the ABC or whatever, and that's how we got in it. So to get out of it now, it's like any insurance thing, once you're called on it,
Mhm.
you've got to address it properly, and I think city is. So for me, my thing is, we like a courtesy car, but they should not be kept overnight. They must have a driver's license active, and they must have insurance that lays on top of what we have. Everybody's
And
got
that
it.
was a recommendation from the League of Cities. I talked to insurance people at the League of
Okay.
Cities, at the League of City, and they said, we recommend that you get a copy of their insurance card. Also,
We
you
just
know
need
it's
to get
covered.
it done.
I agree.
Okay, well, we will see what Mr. Holmes has and
That's important.
at this, by the next meeting.
And I believe that's the end
That's
of
it?
that. Mhm.
Okay, the next airport
Thank you, Sonny.
update- Thank you, Sonny. Is 5B, the hangar painting project discussion continued. And John, you want to take that for a minute and tell us where we are?
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a holding pattern waiting for guidance on how we can begin to tackle the issue of the appearances. We just raised hangar rents, as you know, in January. That will result in somewhere around $15,000 extra revenue this year. Next year, it's gonna be more like 19,000 because we missed the first quarter, October, November, and December. We raised in January instead of so next fiscal year, that number will go up. So I don't know if we want to piecemeal this thing, a couple thousand, 3,000 at a time, or try to borrow money to do a big chunk and use the money at the end of the year to pay the big loan, or how we're going to handle it. I'm not an expert in municipal construction. I think maybe get Jonathan and the city manager involved and come up with a course of action. I don't know how to start increasing or
Well, sustainability is one of our reasons to exist. And you got to paint what's rusty.
It's true.
So what's the deal?
The whole hangar isn't rusty, it's the edges, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yes.
I want to see, I have a question, I think. You can do gallery view, I think is what it's called. Yeah, it's okay.
Here, Wayne, you want to use mine?
No, that's okay.
So the question before us is, do we do this thing one piece at a time, or do it for the whole project and borrow some money, or? Well, I guess the big, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm kind of, we're candidates. Isn't the bigger issue, how is staff going to address this issue? Because it's not piecemealing, I don't think is the right answer. But this is ongoing issue. So do we have a maintenance budget? I guess that maybe that's a question for a financial person here in a minute. But do we have a maintenance budget? And if so, I mean,
well, I've got a small maintenance budget of about 7,000 a year.
oh, that's nothing. on what we've got
That's nothing compared to what we
here.
have to do. All right. And
So-
I did check with the bank on the payment on a loan of $60,000 would be, I think the loan payment was surprisingly low, about 15,000 a year.
So do you not think it makes sense, and I'm just asking a question, don't you think it makes sense that John get with our chief financial officer and Don Holmes and figure out a recommendation back to us on the best way to handle this? I don't think we're capable of figuring out financially or within the city how we tackle this. I think where I'm looking for a recommendation from staff on how, and then see if we can get it supported.
I know what I think in here, excuse me.
Yes.
I think staff is asking us for our input is what I'm getting from John here,
That's true.
because this is the second time we've
Yeah.
and today was when we were going to discuss it in detail, so.
Okay, I understand now. I miss.
So there's several options, and can I bring up, John, we found one of the commercial hangars had a rusted door frame that had to be repaired, and we talked about going out for bids, correct? Jonathan, you and me?
Well, let's back up to something you mentioned. Andrew said in that airport improvement program money cannot be used to paint hangars.
Right, I
They
remember.
can be used for rehabilitation.
Okay.
And then something unfortunate happened. One of the main supports on our middle commercial hangar failed at the ground and was flapping in the wind.
All right.
Well, guess what? We think, or we're sure that rehabilitating those doors would be eligible for airport improvement program money.
I think some of your questions will be answered if we do allow me to talk on item C.
Okay.
I think it'll answer some. It's not gonna, Wayne, it's not gonna provide the source of funding though.
Okay.
But it'll at least explain the approach of how to determine what the cost is gonna be.
Okay, let me go back to Ken's point, which I think was a good point. So from an airport advisory perspective, I think the maintenance and painting of the buildings out here is very important for several reasons. Number one, for the tenants. But number two, what's happening now is we're having more businesses come into our town to look at the business park and other places. And I'm sorry, folks, this does not make a good impression to see a bunch of rusty buildings out there. So, I mean, that's from an advisory point, that's my 2 cents. And I talked to John about it a couple of weeks ago.
And sustainability is our responsibility.
Yes.
Well,
From an advisory nature.
If nothing else, if you look at them, it's only certain parts. Now they faded, but only certain things, the tops, the corners, the doors, you could paint those. I would recommend since we don't have $1 million or whatever it's gonna cost, for sure, we take this money and we paint the ones you're gonna see coming in, whatever you can do of them to make a good first impression. Now if we can get them in here, they're done, but they're not gonna ride around and go in each person's hanger. But surely the entrance, if you look at those 3 big hangars on the right, they're really rusty around them. And if you ride by the ones beyond them, the doors are rusted, and not the whole door. The hangars are faded. But I wish that we could come up.
And so Wayne, if we don't have the money now, because we're just went up in the rent, would it make sense to all of us that we took out a loan for 2 years worth of that increase of $25 per unit to go ahead and get that painting done and then pay it back over the next 2 years rather than waiting until we have cash in the bank?
Well, that's an idea. And I guess I would say to you, I would like to know what our chief financial officer opinion is on that, because she's the expert.
Okay.
So, Mr. McLean, this is Jonathan, General Services Director. Can I speak to this item real quick?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay. I had the benefit of walking the airfield with John and Judd last weekend. We did look at some of this. As you're aware, we did look at some quotes a while back on the total cost for painting. It didn't include the repairs to these supports. I think this conversation is a little premature. And what I would recommend, if you'll take my recommendation, is let us come back with some actual numbers to see what we can and can't do before we have a conversation about debt service on a number that we have no idea about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is Logan. I would agree with Mr. Griffith. My just quick overview of your discussion is I just don't believe that it's wise to go and take out a loan with money that's not exactly guaranteed. You're talking about using specifically the overage on rent monies that may or may not be, luckily right now everything's filled 100%, but I would hate to take out a loan specifically to be repaid with those monies when that's not guaranteed revenue to me as far as I'm concerned. So I think that it would be a good idea for me, Mr. Griffith, Mr. Yule, the city manager, to kind of sit down and actually propose something to you all that makes sense and that is in the best interest of the city and the airport.
That's great. I think, Mr. Chairman, that's a great methodology of how to approach this. But to go back to something my fellow board member said, Ken, our job is to give advice to the staff. Our advice to the staff is something needs to be done about this.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I speak for a moment too?
Is that Dana?
Yes, Dana, go ahead.
And if I missed this, I'm sorry. Do we have a list of the items that need maintenance? And if we do, is it a prioritized list of these items? I mean, I hear painting and rusty doors, but do we have an actual whole list of these maintenance items?
Well, it's basically the white trim around the hangars, the doors, and eventually the paint. But I think kind of in that priority.
Yeah.
White trim, doors, faded hangers.
So it's just 3 things, not like a laundry list of 12 things to
Right.
help the look of the airport.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this before we go on to the next one?
Can I give you 2 cents for it?
Sure.
That's all for it. If you're talking about painting trim and doors and the body, you're gonna create a lot more cost for yourself. The body is the low hanging fruit. You can go in and spray that very easily. You take the entire side of hanger E or the 3 right here, that could probably be done by one person in less than an hour. But the trim is what takes the time. So.
And there is more than painting. There's a lot of rust that's going to have to be ground down.
If you buy OSPO and you spray OSPO on and then rinse it off, it'll stop the rust where it sits now. And you can easily brush prime it real fast. You know, from a quick and dirty maintenance perspective, just to stop the damage. But you guys would like a little bit of free professional advice, I'd more than happy to give it to you. I got lots of free time and pocket with you.
Thank you. Very much appreciate that, Commissioner.
You want to tell her who's speaking?
Yes, that's Commissioner Rawls that added those comments.
No comment. I'm going before my nephew says. Eat my ass.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
ranks you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next agenda item, and that is Andrew's report. We had the privilege of having a nice several-hour meeting last week, and we went over the complete strategic plan update, and lots was gained out of that. So Andrew, we'll turn it over to you. And thank you for bringing your 2 sidekicks and spending all that time with us.
Okay, so we met back on the 25th, me and Matt and Brad. And we brought a 2-page agenda and just quick review. Everything on these 2 pages was a yellow item that we needed to confirm with the city, because there's a lot of things that are coming upon us in 2021. And we just want to make sure that city understands, airport understands, city manager and Jonathan and Mandy. So we just sat around the table here and talked for a few hours. I just want to give you a summary of where we ended up. Very, very consistent with things in the past, but several projects that are about to have design completed and about to bid. The first one is the new T-Hangar project. The project is going to be next to W10. It's going to be the last hangar between W10 and Route 100. So it'll be in the empty place where the old twin used to be years and years ago. It's on the edge of the highway. It's going to be bid as a 6-unit T-Hangar with an option to build to either 7 or 8 units, because we don't know where the funding is going to, where the bid cost is going to be yet. We want to build as many units as possible. So it's either going to be a 6, a 7, or an 8. And it's going to have rolling doors, and it's not going to have hydraulic doors. We picked the cheaper option because in general, the choice to build a 6-unit rolling hangar versus 6 units with hydraulic doors allows you to build a 7th unit. That's the cost of the door. So we're not going to go hydraulic. We're going to go back to rolling doors, and we're going to try and get at least 1, maybe even 2 more units in the project budget and grant funds. So that's going to be a base bid inside this package that we're going to put out. We're
I'm
also,
sorry, can I ask a quick question? on
yes,
that?
sir.
So can an old man like me push those doors
Yes,
open?
sir. You will be able to. It'll be a hang.
As I get later.
Understood.
They're pretty hard right
It's going to be a good current rolling door. I'm talking with John that we talked about this. Not aware of any complaints of any rolling door problems on the airport, other than the times when something breaks and has to be fixed. And I don't mean anything big, but if a rolling door breaks, you've got to fix it, just like you would in your own garage. If that roller breaks, you've got to replace that roller. But other than that, we talked about it. There were no complaints on rolling doors in Palatka.
Okay.
I've got a constant complaint on W10
I've got
because it was too hard for me to open and close.
Well, so yeah,
And that's a big
that's
one.
not even a T-Hanger.
I got
That's
I'm gonna
a-
tell you,
That's about
on my hanger, I can't do it. And I would merely throw, they are hard. And I would say, that we get this board members, let's go out there, just randomly pick them and open. And I want to see one of y'all open the doors pretty dang hard. I think that we should consider, we just give recommendations anyway.
The new ones, everywhere you go, are hydraulic doors. They aren't, you go to St. Augustine, go to any airport you want to, they got the new easy hydraulic doors. I think if we're going to try to upgrade this airport and to have the kind of people we want, I'd rather have 6 of them with doors that are so nice and easy than to have 7 of them that people that we want might object. Now, we're in a market where there's more planes than there is hangars, but that's not going to always be the case. And I just, for me, I'd recommend taking a good look at the people that want the rolling doors, not you, you're big and strong. Bring the people over there that are on this, every one of them out here, and let them open. Let them open.
And you can charge more if it's got the hydraulic door.
You can, I tell you what, they do charge.
I will pay more for the
And
hydraulic door.
the other thing, the way these doors are on here now, if my neighbor opens his door, how am I gonna get in my hand? If my neighbor opens his door, can I get in my hand?
Yeah.
If it's open?
Mhm.
Not always, depends on where they are. Some of them you can't, because that door rolls in front of the other hangar. I'll show you out there. My point is, let's try to make it the really
First
nice,
class instead of
first
second
class,
class.
like there is everywhere else. For me, I think you look and charge that much more for those hangars with those doors. I believe people would pay another $20 or $30 a month to have one of those folding doors. But we don't want to start off.
So let me just say that everything that everybody just said, we talked about, and I want to let you know, Pastoral Associates, it does not matter to us at all whether it's one or the other, because we can spec it either way. And I just, I'm gonna somewhat toss it back to John and Judd, but everything everybody talked about, including the fact that it's actually a $50 increase to have a hydraulic door versus a rolling door. That seems to be what the market is today. And that it could be. The intent was to try and get 1 or 2 more planes here.
Well, okay, Mr. Chairman.
But whatever you want, it does not matter to us.
I get that. So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Wayne.
so again, going back to my point, we're an advisory board. You heard our opinions. What ultimately happens is up to the city. That's what but I'm advising, I'm with John on this one. I just think we keep selling ourselves short here in Putnam County on get by stuff rather than, I don't mean that derogative, but we need to step it up with what our competitors are doing.
This was a long discussion we had
Well,
with,
it just got long.
Mr. Holmes and Jonathan Griffith. The day we sat in here and we worked through the maintenance cost became an issue and a factor on the decision to put in rolling doors. So anyway, it's gonna have to readdress it with the city manager. The decision was
Mr.
to
Chairman,
make
when
rolling.
I get my turn.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, it seems like we're getting a little pushback on what we're doing. I'm gonna tell you this. If it's not something that you want to come before this board, don't bring it to us. But don't have a meeting and come in here and tell us, when we try to tell you what we think, all we did, well, we've done that, we spent 2 hours to. No. If you want us to take our time out of our jobs to come over and do it, then bring it to us, we're just giving an opinion. But I think if we're worth having, it's worth listening to our opinions without having to feel like I'm shoving, you want it, or I want to do that. I just want to give you what I think is the best for Palatka and let it roll.
That's right.
Right. Well, I'm not trying to push back, because we did say at that meeting that the recommendation from the board was hydraulic doors. I want you to know that came up during that meeting the other day. So we did make your wishes known at that meeting.
And as John, I'm with John on this one, but ultimately it's the city's decision. We're just advising.
And the opinions,
Construction anyway, we're not talking about going back to.
I know, we're not talking about anything.
and the opinions are very important. That's why we have an advisory board. So I mean,
The
that's,
people that make those opinions need to use the 2 doors. If somebody can say this is easier, you can open this one up. I would say to them, if there's a discussion, come out here. You don't pick where they go. Let them just point and say, I want to open that. Let's see what happens.
Judd, can I ask a question?
yes, Melissa. Go ahead.
This is really directed to Andrew. Could you bid the doors as an alternate, an ad alternate?
Yes.
I mean, at least you could get a price and figure out if you could afford it.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah, so I think we have, and that price is ballpark.
Well, it would be the real price at that point. You'd see the real dollar. Wouldn't be our opinion of what we think it is. It'd be the real dollar.
So was it $140,000?
Well, it's approximately $20,000 per unit.
$20,000 per unit is the price of the hydraulic door.
And over and above sliding doors.
Over and above?
Yeah, correct.
Yes, over and above a sliding door. So we would have, on a 7-unit, we'd have $140,000 additional cost for sliding hydraulic doors over roll doors.
But if you actually bid it, then you know exactly how much it costs and you can make a decision, maybe even build in some deductive alternates to be able to afford it too.
Well, we have to remember, this is a grant. This is a grant. They're giving us this money to make the airport better.
Yep.
It's not like the city's taking it out of regular funds. And I think when we get a grant, I'm gonna go with what y'all have both said. Let's make it nice. Let's start trying to get up to what they would get if they go to another airport. We're always comparing prices. You know, we say, well, we're cheaper, but go over to St. Augustine. Take a look at how easy it is to get in those hangars. And it makes people want to come here.
Okay.
No, I'm 100% agree with John. That's all.
Okay,
I'm on that side all the way.
thank you.
I'm in
So-
love with my hydraulic door.
So Melissa, did that answer everything that you had?
Yes, I heard Andrew say that you could bid it and then you could, figure out what was possible with actual dollars and real prices. And you could also design the project to include the hydraulic doors and maybe bid it with regular doors or sliding doors as a deductive alternate. So, design it the way you want it, but it needs to come in where you can afford it.
Thank you. Dana, did you have any input? Okay, well, let's move on, Andrew, to the next. Oh, go ahead, Dana.
No, I said I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
So let me explain to everybody else what is in this bid, this bid package. And the intent was to get a better handle on the details of what some of the interests are that we're trying to take care of, because there's multiple. So the first one is the actual hang unit itself. And that's going to be a 6+1+1 slider or rolling. I guess that's something I'm going to have confirmation from John and Jonathan Griffith and the city manager on, but I'll follow up after the meeting with that. That's going to be a bid component. Another bid component will be the new hangar lighting. We talked about exterior and interior lighting because we're upgrading the lighting. We took some money from the budget expected for the hangars and moved it over to lighting. So interior and exterior lighting will be another bid item. Those will all be grant funded because they're all new. And then there's 2 items that are not going to be grant funded, but we want to get the proper budget dollars to the city to know what they are. And they are for the rehabilitation or replacement. We're going to get both costs for the doors to W1, W2, W9, and W10. There's been a structural failure on the bottom of W2. And when you look at W2, you see the same thing is occurring on the base of both sides of W2 and W1 and 9 and 10. So that they're coming. So we want to proactively go and figure out, can we do a rehabilitation on those door structures, or is it a complete replacement of the door? We are not proposing those things are going to happen right now, but we have to understand the magnitude of the cost from a contractor to tell us this is what it's going to be. So we're going to find out those door costs. And then we're also going to get another bid for the city for the painting. And that's going to be the white structural steel painting. It's not going to be the full body of the hangar. It's going to be the minimum that you need to do. And that is get rid of that rust, get them stripped down to bare metal or close to it, get them sealed properly, and get them repainted. We do not know if all that work will be awarded to the same contractor, and the funds will not be commingled between grant funds and city funds. But the intent is to get real costs, because the city can't even award a painting bid because they don't have one anyway. So we figured we would put it all inside this hangar bid with these other components with separate bids, and just open them all up at the same time and end up with a significant project that the city can fund, however that may be. But knowing the real costs of the T-hanger, the door repairs, and the lighting, and the painting, and just having it all be in one project. So
That makes sense.
that's where we ended up. The other thing that we discussed that day, we did want to add to an outer year request to Florida DOT to have door replacement and roof replacement for your hangars, not repair, not painting, not small repairs. You're at a point now where you are going to continue to replace doors and roof systems. Those items are eligible as a standalone. So an outer year request to FDOT in 2027, try and look at some funds because these things are going to continue to occur. And then the other thing that we discussed was just briefly was some planning for the new 5 acres that we just purchased on Route 100. And I don't know whether Jonathan wants to speak on it or not, but Jonathan has a specialty study going on with the city where the city is going to look at the future land uses for that piece of land. And that's happening separately. It's not anything that we're associated with, but Jonathan, I don't know if you want to speak about that at all. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I'll give you an update. As referenced at the last Airport Advisory Board meeting, we will have an RFP that we want to kind of run by you all and get your input on. It's for what we're calling a market opportunity analysis as part of a business incubator study. It's currently still being reviewed in-house by staff, but the airport is listed as one of the primary stakeholders. So hoping to have it to you soon.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
And then the final project we discussed was Taxiway Alpha, the western 1,000 feet of Taxiway Alpha. It's the oldest piece of airfield pavement right now. The FAA is going to provide a grant to rehabilitate that sometime this fall. The most important thing that we're kind of keeping our eyes on is whether or not the FAA is going to provide 100% funding for the project. Right now, it's not listed yes or no. If they provide 100% funding, that would mean that the city and the FDOT grant matches, which are both set right now, that could be another source of funds being available for other uses if the AIP is 100% this year, as it was last year. And again, there's no decision, there's nothing we know on that, but we'll know more about that probably within the next 90 days. And then we'll decide what to do with those other funds, possibly reuse them at that time. There's no decision to be made right now, but we just wanted to discuss it as a possibility in the future. Oh, and one more thing. The last CARES package, the new CARES package that just came out, is going to provide a small cash influx to the airport. Last year, it was a $30,000 direct payment for operational expenses of the airport. There's going to be another one of those. It won't be $30,000. It's probably going to be more in the 10 to 15,000. But it is going to be another direct expense reimbursement from the FAA, non-project related. It's not about developing the airport. It's about assisting response to COVID, reduced revenues, decreased expenses, and the airport will be able to decide what it wants to do with those funds. I think we're going to know more about that within 30 to 45 days from the FAA, how much Palatka is eligible for and what that will be. And that'll come up quickly.
And then Andrew, also, we discussed the projects that we have for this year are all zero out of the city, right? Zero money. And next year is projected to be everything but 30,000. Am I close?
Just the city's share of the taxiway A project. Again, if the AIP is 100%, it would also be zero. So all the projects, all of the hangar components that are scheduled for funding, and that's the 6, 7, or 8 units, and the lighting, that is all FDOT funded at 100%, but not painting and not the replacement of doors for W1, 2, 9, or 10.
All right. And then what about that run-up area and taxiway?
That's still being discussed with the FAA. That didn't even bring that up.
Okay.
We're still designing and planning on putting the run-up apron on the west section of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a wash stand in any of this
There is not.
discussion?
There is not.
Okay, and then also came up the money left over from the 5-acre project and the Comer land. And was able to reach out to Mrs. Comer. And because she owns 4 other parcels that are connected, with 3 of them touching Reed Street, and that one being a link to Moody, she's not interested at this time. So I guess we can just take that off of. Now, I did wonder, Andrew, if we should reach back out and ask her if we can do another tree removal. I mean, I don't know. Did you already have your man visit?
Hmm.
No. I don't. She might be very, because that's quite a few feet of that area is all hers. I think those lots were, I think they're 100-foot wide, so 300 and 400 feet.
There is another obstruction removal and land acquisition project scheduled at some point in the 5-year CIP. And John, I think that's probably the time to try and handle it again, unless John gets a note on his airport inspection from FDOT that says trees on that exact parcel are now a problem again. So
John, point that out where they.
Which is, right here. This is Moody Road. It's 100.
So the trees are right in there?
I mean, it is the closest parcel of land with a pine tree in relation to the approach from the east.
From the east.
From the east.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. We're going to stand our inspection next week because should have some more information on this. But the inspector will walk like 250 feet off the end of here and stand with a measuring device, and he looks left and right at these trees, and these constantly come up very close, if not in protected airspace.
Okay.
So that's it for my update.
Okay, are there any questions for Andrew from anybody?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate that. All right, Logan, are you ready for 5D, please?
Hi, yes. Thank you for having me today. Hope all of you are well. I know you only have a few more minutes left of your meeting, so I'm going to run through this fairly quickly. I did want to touch on the $162,000 advance that's on the books. I previously mentioned this a few airport advisory meetings ago, that this is an audit entry that was booked in 2013. I don't have much information on this entry. I did go back and look in the CAFR, and there's no real details of it. However, I believe that the entry was caused because of the way that accounting was done in this fund previously. The sorry, the grants and the operating are kind of mushed together, if you will. And if you over expense in one year, and it could be due to a grant expense, but you don't get the money back until the following year, it could show the airport having a large negative. I don't do it that way anymore. I actually show that there's grant money outstanding or due from a grant, and I book it that way so that whenever the airport receives that money in, any advances from general are paid back immediately because we know that they're attributed to grants. This is on the book in the liability section for the general ledger, and it does say in the CAFR that it is to be paid back. It was originally for about $300,000, so it's down to 162. So I wanted to touch on that before I actually went to the report.
Does that answer your question, Wayne? Okay, thank you, Logan.
Absolutely. The first portion of your report is going to be the airport funding, a grant. You're going to have your grant revenues and your grant expenses. If you see there's a negative 189 or 189,000, that is because we have expenses without the grant reimbursement. However, as soon as Mandy or Miss Tucker and Mr. Yule put in for those, we should have that money back. Moving on to the operating portion, your operating revenues are on your first page. at 272,000. This is as of January. And then on the second page, it continues on for operating expenditures, broken out between personnel, operating, and debt service. Your actual column is the column on the far right. You will see, Sunny, if you'll scroll down one so that they can see. Thank you. The number highlighted in red is your liability insurance expense that Mr. Yule was explaining to you earlier. We, to my knowledge, he is working with risk management on trying to get those expenses refunded as a insurance reimbursement. If you go down to the very bottom, you're going to see that your total operating expenses is $500,000. That means you're $227,000 over as of January. That does include the $133 for the insurance, and that does include your $4,200 for your vehicle debt. So I know you all like to see without the debt service, because we haven't paid the annual debt service that you all like to refer to, it is still negative 223,000. If we should get the insurance monies in, then it does reduce your liability to 94,000. So you're still going to be in the red about 94,000. That's as of January. Things quickly change quarter to quarter. So I believe after March, you're going to see some different numbers. Do you have any questions for me?
No, very good report. Very nice, Logan. Very informative.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much, Logan. I guess we're all caught up to date with our agenda. Is there any other things we need to discuss? Mr. McLean, I think you had a...
Well, we got one more thing on the agenda.
Oh, my apology. What's the last one?
Right down here. Consideration of new logo.
Mr.
Oh,
Logo
beautiful.
here.
Well, it's not on mine, so I apologize.
Yeah, that was a modification that we just put in
So
later.
my apologies. So, Mr. McLean, would you like to take this one, please?
Well, first of all, I want to ask John, and I'm probably going to offend somebody. Let me just say that up front.
It's okay.
So where did this come from?
No, that was my idea. We need a new one of these, and I thought the alligator we have in the lobby that people come take pictures of, and I went, hey, maybe we should work an alligator into some type of a logo. Or, so it was my idea, and I got a young lady, young high school student, one of our hangar tenants, who's very good with caricatures, to come up with this.
Okay. So here's my 2 cents. I'm one person on this advisory board and this advice. So I printed off 50 municipal airport logos that to me are very professional looking. And John, if I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry. This is not professional. This is just something I would have on my helicopter when I was flying. Okay.
Right.
This, yeah. So if we're going out there and we're trying to up our image, I would suggest that staff take a look at these 50 logos that are used by municipal airports around and utilize that. I am totally not in favor of this at all. That's my 2 cents, one person on this board.
So, Melissa, can you see what Mr. McLean is looked at?
Well, this came out in our package.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it on the screen. I'm a Seminole, so I'm not in favor of it.
It had nothing to do with it. It had nothing to do with it.
And Dana, you got it all too. I just don't want to leave you out.
I did see it and I'm not a fan. I think it needs a more professional and clean look.
Okay. All right. And Hugh, what would you like to comment, sir?
Well, you got 2 rudders on a single engine plane, and that's very rare.
Oh.
Well, I like that. Thank you.
That's a pilot.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Browning.
I think it's cute. I think that if we have a fly-in or something you could put somewhere if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's not at all. It goes back to the doors. It goes back to everything we do. We want to up the ante. Look at some of these things. You know, we need a professional looking logo, period. Not something that I like. alligator is fine. I'm a Seminole fan, so right off the bat, you lost me. But I just, an alligator, I mean, I don't know. So you can look at these, there's a bunch of nice ones, I think, in there. You could take them and change them around a little bit. So that's my vote.
All right, Ken? Would you like?
I'm with with general consensus.
Thank you. Me too.
I think that's clever. I think that's
Cute.
it's cute, but when it comes to the applying for grants and things like that, stationary and things like that, we'll go another little bit more conservative direction.
All right, wonderful. Those are great comments. And John, I'm sure you've got.
I just wanted to, we could use it in a different capacity somehow, like the host of the flying in, or we sell stickers with it to people put on their cars, or put on the tailgate of the airport vehicle with the professional one on the doors, or maybe a little one on the tailgate or something like that. There's another one that says the name Jasper on the nose art, like World War II, and that was Mr. Kennedy's first name, Jasper K. Larkin Kennedy. So we thought it might be cute to name him Jasper after K. Could it be used in some other capacity, I guess?
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but that should not be on anything that is representing the airport. It shouldn't be on bumpers. It shouldn't be on the cars. It shouldn't be on the loader cars. Our recommendation to the city, they can do whatever. We're trying to nicely tell you that put that in your office.
Oh, those are good.
You can put it in your office, but I, for one, recommend that we not put it on anything that's going to be a part of this airport. I don't think it's what we want.
Thank you. All right, we will have this on more agenda items as we come up with some more ideas.
Lively discussion.
Lively discussions, yes. And Mr. Holmes, did you have any comment before we close? We're a minute out.
Do you mind if I say something? I meant to be regular comments.
Okay, so we don't have Mr. Holmes, yes, so you got a 30
So Paul Zach, County Commissioner, District 5. I just wanted to know, we had a town hall meeting in Barden, and afterwards we had a couple people that came up and asked us about, is there a potential for a small carrier to ever come and fly actually commercial flights out of here, do like maybe get people to Miami, do a connection flight, things like that. I don't have the answer, so I thought this would be a good place to come ask the question. And if we do get questions like that, because obviously the county really isn't part of this as much, who would we bring those type of questions to? Because I have had it 3 or 4 times since taking the role in November.
I do get a number of questions throughout the years. When are you going to get commercial service in here? And without offending anybody, I try to nicely say, just as soon as an air carrier sees the potential for profit, they will, approach us. It's not a project that we could stand up and see if people will come fly on it. I think it's going to have to be driven by, the probably the small carriers in the northeast or southeast
so from
Florida.
My perspective, then my answer back to those people would be basically that as soon as a carrier decides they want, we can accommodate it, and that we would love to accommodate it, and
within reason.
Right.
We're limited by the size of the runway. We're not going to have wide body, but smaller.
If we, okay, I just wanted to have an answer to take back to the people that asked that question. So I appreciate it.
Commissioner.
And
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, from time to time, it might be, and it's your decision, might be helpful for John to come to the county commission, give an update on what's happening at the airport.
Yes.
Very good, a lot of great stuff happening out here.
Yes. And I love the
Thank you.
yearly event we do. I wish we were doing this year as far as the car show and the plane show. That's great. My kids love it. Maybe that's an opportunity to use that, put it on the flag for a kids area or something.
There you go.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen, both of you commissioners for coming. All right, we'll go ahead and stand adjourned. Go ahead.
We always ask for comments. Let's see if anybody in the public, see if Jeff wants to talk too. He's here.
Yes.
No, I just, I wanted to come out, and I was want to meet with Andrew and ask him a question anyways after the meeting. But I've never attended an airport advisory meeting. Maybe I'll start none of these things.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
One thing that's one to remind is there's no participation from the county here. And
Actually, that's not true. I am.
okay,
I'm it.
you're the county's appointee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only for 19 years. You can fire me if you want.
So, what's going through my mind is, there's opportunities. This service is not just city citizens, and there might be opportunities where the county can, you can port up, you guys,
Thank you,
help
Jeff,
out with
money.
some of the stuff you got.
For those that are not aware, Jeff is from county commission.
Yep.
We're all
Thank you.
aware.
We are.
You haven't read the Black Day News this morning?
Okay, well, we need to adjourn and then we can carry on more if we would like. Thank you, everyone, for being here.